So looking ahead 5 years, if you could,
Yeah.
where do you see HuffPost in the pantheon of news organizations, and where do you see the media industry in general?
I think, not to subvert your question, but I think that only a fool living in these times would try to predict 5 years from now, because you have to think that, let's just go back 2 election cycles, the 2004 election. And if you think then what it was like in 2008, for instance, you'd say, okay, there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter. What? These things are so ingrained, right, in the daily, hourly, part of everything that we do now in the media culture. And when we launched the Huffington Post, for instance, in 2005, YouTube was only 2 months old. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter. These things are, heart and soul of what we do as a journalistic enterprise now. So I can't even imagine what will be happening 5 years from now. And I think that's to our benefit. I think one of the important things is, Clayton Christensen famously talked about the innovator's dilemma and how companies can be so busy focused on the thing that made them successful that they don't see the disruptive thing that comes along and disrupts them. But I think we're at a time of such innovation and such disruption and such innovation that I think people spend too much time now looking for that next thing over their shoulders, and then they forget the thing that got them to where they were in the first place. And so I think that's one of the things that HuffPost has always done, is that we have stayed true to what we are, but we've taken the innovations, and we haven't thrown the baby out with the bathwater, but we've made them a part of what we're doing. So in the same way, that's how I think we should, not try to look so far down the road, but to try to see what comes up next, be fast on your feet, be nimble, be smart, don't embrace every new thing because it's the new thing, but if it seems like it fits with your business, if it seems like it helps tell the stories that you're trying to tell, then sure, bring it in. And so that's how I view the future. I view it with great excitement, a little bit of trepidation, and I think HuffPost, because of that nimbleness, because of that always looking to the next thing while maintaining the thing that makes HuffPost HuffPost, I see us continuing to grow. I certainly see us expanding internationally. We're about to launch very shortly our our 5th international site in Italy, and so I see a continued expansion globally. I see us moving into new platforms like we did with HuffPost Live, made a big investment there, and I see us doing more and more on video. I see us moving rapidly into the mobile world. We're already there, but we're going to put even more of our resources towards mobile, because I think that's clearly where news and information consumption is moving. So that's where I see us heading. I don't know if that's a 5-year plan or if that's a 2-year plan or a 1-year plan, depending. But I definitely would say more video, more mobile, and more openness to the next big thing that neither you nor I can imagine today, just sitting here.
Are your international sites in language, and if so, does it eventually all get translated so that it's a universal coverage? Or?
Yes, we've had different strategies depending on which location. In England, they speak this language that we have a very hard time getting our heads around, but so far we're leaving it in English, adding a U where necessary. But seriously, so we launched our UK in English, but then our French, HuffPost, the Huffington Post in France is all in French. Our El Huffington Post in Spain is all in Spanish. Our new one opening in Italy this month, launching in Italy next week, in fact, will be in Italian. We have one in Quebec, which is in French as well. But when we have something that is significant, we do have translators who can rapidly take a post that we think has greater significance and feed it around. And that's one of the things we're really working on, because we'd like there to be cross-pollination. Obviously, there are things that Canadians care about that Americans maybe care about less, but there's certainly, and I think as a country, let alone as a company, we need to be much more open to what's happening around the world. We need to be much more interested. On HuffPost Live, we're trying to do that as well. We want, to get reports regularly from our UK and our France and Spanish brothers and sisters, reporting. And so eventually, I think we'd like to have it where it easily is translatable, and you can click and read it in English or in the native language of the country.
So Roy, judging from what you've seen through the comments, through the community, and what you're taking in terms of your different sources of news, how do you see the next presidential 2012 election going?
Well, for us, this is obviously, we're very excited to be have launched right at the beginning of the stretch run. I mean, this was a great thing for the Huffington Post in 2008. We got a lot of attention for our political coverage in 2008, broke a couple stories. And so we're hoping for the same thing in 2012. Obviously, people's interest is incredibly high. For instance, so when we're taping this, the Romney fundraising tapes have been the big story all week for us as well. We've covered it, but we haven't covered it obsessively. I want to point that out. I think a lot of, not to cast aspersions on the cable channels, but very often when there's one story and you'll just see it done again and again and again, we'll cover it, but then we'll move on to something else. But the passion is very high. As a matter of fact, we just on our story that Ryan Grimm, who's our Washington bureau chief, wrote about the tapes, because we actually had part of the tapes first, and that story has gotten over 160,000 comments. That one story. So that's the most ever that Huffington Post has ever had. So obviously the passion is high, and passion is good for us, both as a website and as a streaming network. So we're looking forward to this stretch run. Of course, as citizens of the country, we're a little bit saddened by the nature of the discourse. The whole idea that when they nominated Paul Ryan, we were going to suddenly put all the gaffe of the day things behind, and we were going to get to a more substantive discussion of the role of government, for instance. That doesn't seem to be happening, but hopefully with the debates coming, and they're threatening to say that, well, this is really going to turn it into a real discussion of taxation and the role of government in our lives. So hopefully it'll be elevated. Hopefully it won't be a bunch of 5-year-olds sitting in the back seat saying, no, you said that, no, you said that, no, you made it. So, but either way, we'll be covering it, and we'll be talking about it. And again, we'd like to do both. We want to have fun. I think campaigns, by their very nature, are things that people are focusing on. It's, we don't have that much anymore, right? We have fewer and fewer. As the audience gets sliced and diced into smaller pieces, we don't have as many national things that everybody's talking about. So it's fun when an election comes and it kind of focuses everybody's vision on it, and you can talk about that instead of, some horrible pop culture reference, insert here, so that's the thing. I'm looking forward to it, and I also love the unexpectedness of it. We headed into this week thinking that Romney was going to be bringing out his new slate of advertisements, and what was that going to do, and what was that story going to be, and instead we're talking about this other thing, and it's driving. I don't think that the two-state solution would have been on anybody's menu for what we were going to be talking about this week, but here it is front and center. Ronnie's comments at the fundraiser about the two-state solution being the thing besides the 47% of the people that he doesn't worry about has become a real part of the conversation. We've covered that a lot here on HuffPost Live. So that's the unexpected thing that I look forward to and enjoy.